deck. So the solution to that is quite straightforward. We obviously need a deck, so I'm just going to add a property here, strong property. Should be strong because we need that deck to stay around. And it's going to be a deck, and I'm going to call it deck. Okay, now we have an error here because of deck, so we have to go up here and import deck, right, to make that error go away. So now we got this property. That's cool. Obviously, we want to use lazy instantiation to instantiate that property, so I'm going to do that. That's a deck scar deck. And I'm just going to see if my instance variable is null, or nil rather, 0 basically. Then I'm going to say, underbar deck equals, and I'm actually going to create deck using another method here. You'll see why in a second. And then I'm going to return underbar deck. Okay, and create deck is just going to create a deck. Create deck, and I'm going to create a playing card deck because that's what you were asked to do. So I'm just going to do alloc init to do that. I got an so now that I have a deck, I can use it to get rid of this little ace of clubs thing right here. Okay, and I'm going to do that by saying here card star card equals self.deck draw random card. So I'm going to draw a random card out of the deck, and then instead of putting ace of clubs here, I'm going to put the card's contents. Okay? Simple, elegant solution to the ace of clubs, which I hinted at for you, is simply to start it face down. So I'm going to get a card back here, get rid of the ace of clubs, and now this card starts out face down. So I didn't even have to write card, then flip it. Okay, so I'm going to flip it here. I'll make some more space so you can see. Otherwise, I'm not going to flip it. Okay, so I'm just. The third thing that was kind of not very elegant. So how can we fix that? Well, you know, there's a number of ways to go at that, but I think a simple way is to only flip, when we actually do the flipping over. Now, so let's see if this works. So here's our thing here. So it started face down. Let's click through the deck here. I'll click through it quickly. New file, okay, and we want an Objective-C class, and I'm going to call it card matching game, okay, and it's going to inherit from NSObject as all of our kind of base classes do. And I'm going to put this thing in the same directory as the rest of my model, and I'm also going to put it in the same group in the navigator as my model as well. Okay, so it goes with all these guys, and it goes in this group. Init with card count, and we'll make an NSU integer. I'm going to say using deck star deck. Okay, so there's an initializer, and of course to do that I need to import deck. Game, well, it's a game, so I think it should have a score. We'll say NS integer score. I'm going to call this choose card at index, NSU integer again, index. So I actually need to be able to return a card at a given index. Move this card up into the corner here, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. So I can select it and copy paste, okay, place it, use the nice blue guidelines there. I can even copy 2 and paste them, okay, or copy 4 and paste them, okay. So now I'm going to have 12 cards. That's a good number of cards. Is make this be read-write in my implementation only. And I do that with this little private, redeclare this thing to be non-atomic read-write NS integer score. Okay, use the cards, okay? So I need that internal data structure. It's internal, so I'm going to put it here. Non-atomic strong. It's going to be an NS mutable array, okay? And this is similar to what we had in DEC, right? And I always like to put of card just to say what's in here because okay? And of course, we want our lazy instantiation. Okay, so that's good. So now here, you know, probably not necessary to copy and paste because if you just start typing this, it's going to escape completion. We'll do that with the other method just to show you that one. And then we all know that we do this weird thing here, self equals super init. Now, this is our class's designated initializer. In other words, you have to call this initializer or our class will not be properly initialized. We could have other, so we need to call our supers designated initializer, which for NSObject is init. No arguments, okay? Then we just say if self, then we can initialize ourselves, and then we're going to return self. And if anything goes wrong in here, we will set self equal to nil. How about for int I equals 0, I is less than count, I plus plus, so that's just me going through this many of these things. I'm going to say card star card equals deck, draw a random card, so I'm drawing a random card of the deck. And then I'm just going to say self.cards sub I equals card. Okay, so I've got this mutable array. It's always going to be non-nil, so this is perfectly fine. Okay, then we'll do what we normally do. Otherwise, self equals nil, break out of that for loop because we're dead. Okay, maybe a better way to do this is to say self.cards add object card. Actually, let's do card at index, because card at index is super easy, right? This is card star. And notice if I start to type here, it knows that it's card at index. So it's going to complete that. I press tab to get there. And this one, it just returns self.card subindex. If this index is less than self.cards count, then I'll return it, okay? Otherwise, oops, if, actually we'll do it this way. Use the old question mark. Some people were asking about this. Okay, return question mark nil. Everyone know this question mark colon C thing? This is totally a C thing, not an Objective-C thing, right? Just like an if then. Yeah, go ahead. They're choosing a card, so let's get the card they chose. And I'm going to call self card at index to get that card. Okay, so now I have the card that they're choosing here. Now, if a card that they chose has already been matched against another card, then I'm going to do nothing here. I'm going to ignore when you try to choose a card that's already been matched, successfully matched with another card. So I'm just going to say here, if card is matched, and actually I'll just say if not card is matched, we'll do something. Otherwise, we'll just do nothing. So now the question is, if the card is already chosen, then what am I going to do? Then I'm actually going to flip the card back over or unchoose it. So I'm going to say card.chosen equals no. In here, in this case, we're choosing a new card, and we need to match it against other card. Okay? Let's say another card. Just chosen. So to search, I'm just going to go through my cards, for card, other card, in self.cards. Okay, I'm going to go through all the other cards. And if I can find an other card that is chosen and is not matched, okay, then bingo, I found another card to try and match. Now, and I'm going to do that by saying match score equals the card that we chose up here, right? This is the one that the user is choosing. Match colon, remember that's our method in card that matches two cards. It takes an array though, an array So I'm going to have to make an array on the fly and put the other card in it. Okay? Everyone understand this line of code? I'm matching this card against this card using the match method in card. Okay? But I had to create this little array on the fly because if it is a match or it's not a match, we have to deal with both of those cases. All right, so in the case that it is a match, then let's give ourselves that score. Okay? And both these cards match, so let's mark them both as matched. So we're going to say card.matched equals yes, and the other card.matched equals yes. Right? If they don't match, I'm going to turn that other chosen card, I'm going to unchoose it, basically. So I'm going to say other card.chosen equals no. Okay? And also, I think I'm going to impose a penalty for doing this. Okay? I'm going to subtract something from the score. I'm going to call it my mismatch penalty here. And I can make a constant. Now, let's talk a little bit about constants. You know, this is C. Okay, so you're going to make these constants however you want. One way to do it is to say #define, right? So I could say #define mismatch penalty. Oops. And we can make the mismatch penalty be, you know, the mismatch penalty, what did I decide? I think something like 2. So I'm going to take away 2 points if you mismatch. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do constants is const. Okay, a static const even. Static const int mismatch penalty equals 2. Okay, so that's another way to do it. This is kind of as you prefer. Match bonus. Okay, and this is going to be another constant here. Put this up here. Actually, let's copy and paste this. Paste. And I'm going to give you 4 times whatever your matching is because I'm giving you this penalty, so I want to give you a bonus if you actually match. So whatever the match score is, however good a match it is, you're going to get 4 times as many points if you match. Okay? Make a cost to choose, and I'm going to make it be 1 point. Okay, that'll be inside this if because we only break out of this 4 when we find another card. Good. I want to mark this card as chosen. And sorry for the caps there. Okay. This card, whoops, not is chosen, chosen. This card is chosen after we've done all this thing. And I need to use this logic in this thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a property to hold my card matching game. Okay. I need to import my card matching game header file here to make this work. And I'm going to lazily instantiate it. I'm just going to say if the game is nil, in other words, just our object is freshly initialized, then I'm going to say game equals card matching game alloc, oops, game alloc, and then init. Okay, there's 2 inits there, the one inherited from NSObject, which we know is going to return nil, so I don't want that one, and init with card count. Okay, so I'm going to do that one, tab over return underbar game, and it's nice and lazily initialized. Okay, all right. As you might imagine, that outlet will be an array. Okay, so how do we do that? Very simple, exact same way. I'm holding down the control key. Okay, pick a card here. I'm going to hold down control and drag into my interface just like I do with any other outlet I'm trying to create. And when I let go, you can see that at the top here where it says connection, there's actually the choice of making an outlet collection. So that's an array of things. Okay, we could also make an action message here, be declaring it here, or an outlet to a single button. But here I'm going to do an outlet collection. When you do outlet collection, Xcode, not Objective-C, but Xcode wants to know what kind of objects are in there. That's purely for Xcode. I told you there's no way to know what's in an array in Objective-C, and the compiler can't know that. So this is purely for Xcode, and you're going to see how Xcode remembers this answer in a second. And here's the name. I'm going to call it card buttons. That's what these are. These are buttons that are holding all the cards. So I have to drag these one by one. It's kind of unfortunate, but at least, you know, I drag it to the thing that's already existing. And you notice as I get close, it highlights the thing that is appropriate. And again, it knows that because it knows this is an outlet collection of buttons. So that's why I can highlight this property. Okay, so I'm going to collect all of them here. And when you do this, you know, it's somewhat error prone, you might miss. So it's nice to go back here and check. And you can see all 12 buttons in here to these things. So now we can do card count. Okay, we know the number of cards. We can just say self.cardButtons, that's this property right here, right? Count. Okay, so this is the number of buttons that's in this array. Get the card that this button is associated with, because these buttons are all still sending this. If you look at this, see all 12 of them are sending this action, and the sender is still the actual button you touched on, not the array, but the actual button, because this is the target action thing right here. So we can still find out who's sending it, and in fact we can even find out its index in this array by saying card index equals self.cardButtons index of object. Okay, so this is going to tell us where this sending button is in this array. Okay, so now that we know which card it is in the array, we can just tell our game, please choose the card at that index. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a little thing here, update UI. Okay, so let's go for UI button, card button in our card buttons. Okay, so we're iterating through all these buttons. Card button is going to be the variable. Let's go ahead and get that card index again for the same thing, self.cardButtons, index of object, the card button that is our iteration variable. Everyone cool with what we're doing there? Right? So we're just figuring out which card it is. Then we're going to ask our model, give us the card at that index, using card at index. Oops. Okay, so now we have the card button and the card. Awesome. Button. Well, let's see. We have to set the card button's title. Okay, so set title for state, UI control state, state normal. Okay, and we have to set the background image, right? Depending on whether it's the Stanford logo or the blank background. Okay. Also, if the card is matched, I'm going to disable the button. Okay, because you've already matched this card, you can't click on it anyway, so I'm going to disable it because a disabled button looks a little different, and I want buttons that are matched to look different. Yeah. Last thing I'm going to say is the card button enabled equals the card is matched. Okay, so the button will only be enabled if the card is not matched. I'm going to create little other methods here, helper methods. So for the title, I'm going to have a helper method called title for card. It's going to take a card as the argument, and it's going to return the title for that card. And for the background, I'm going to have UI image, background image for card, a given card. So I have the card. What's its title? Well, if the card is chosen, then I'm going to return the contents of the card. If it's not, I'm going to return empty string or nil. So I'm just going to say return card.isChosen, question mark, card.contents, otherwise empty string, let's say, or nil, either one in this case. And how about the background image? This is kind of cool, and I'm going to say return a UI image, image name is card.isChosen. So if the card is chosen, then I want the card front, otherwise the card back. Now you probably think, so now I can use that here. Let's do the title first. I'm just going to say self, title for card, the card, and then here I'm going to say self, background image for card. And both of these I'm going to hit return just to make this a little easier. My dumb match only can match one other card. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say here, let's go ahead and do int score equals 0 and return score. The first thing I'm going to say is if other cards count equals 1. Okay, so I'm only going to match one other card. Okay, if there's 2 cards in there, no match. Okay, too much for me. So I'm just going to say this one thing. Now, I need that other card, though. How do I get the other card? I'm going to say card star other. In fact, I'm going to say playing card star other card equals. Now, I could do a lot of things here. I could say other cards sub 0. But I'm actually going to use a method here I want you to know called first object. Other cards, first object. Okay, first object returns the first object in an array. If the array is empty, it returns nil. Okay? So let's go ahead and match it. What's a good matcher? Well, if the suits match, I'll give a little bit of points. But if the ranks match, I'm going to get a lot of points. So let's say if my self.suit is equal to string, the other card's suit. Okay, so the suits match. They're both clubs. Then I'm going to say the score equals 1. Okay, and we can say else or not because we're going to assume the cards are all different. So if the cards are the same, then you're only going to get a suit match, which doesn't even really make sense. But let's say if self.rank, oops, we don't even need to send a message there. If self.rank equals the other card's rank, then let's give 4 points. Now, right here, and run. Hopefully now, let's see if we can find a match. Okay, so there's a club, right? And this is a club, so let's match them. Ready? Oh, it matched, and it even disabled them. Okay, but I have no idea how many points I got because there's no score on here. So obviously, we need a score. So let's put the score in. We just grab a label here and drop it down in here. I'm going to say score 0 because that's what I want. Oops, that's what I wanted to say when we start up. So I have this score. I obviously need to be able to talk to it. So I control drag up here into my interface to create an outlet. I let go. This one wants to be an outlet, not an outlet collection, but an outlet. I'm going to call it score label. Okay. It can be weak because we know that the view is going to point to it. It is a UI label. There's an outlet for it. I'm just going to update it in update UI. So I'm going to say self.scoreLabel equals ns string, string with format. We'll say score :%d. And where do we get the score? Anyone know where we get the score? From the game, exactly, from our model, self.game.score. Okay? And I'm going to go show that just to make sure everyone understands that. Here's my card matching game. Remember that in its public API, it has the score. Okay? And we're keeping the score when we're choosing. Okay? Everybody cool with that? So that's it. That's all we need to do here to update the score. Normally we have, oops, this needs score label.text. Sorry. Okay, we need the text property of the UI label class. We're calling it setter here, set text. That's basically what's happening here. And setting the score. Okay? All right, so let's see here. -1. Why did I get -1? Because I have a cost to flip. So every time I flip a card, I got to pay. All right? Now here's a spade and here's a spade. All right, so what's going to be my score after I click this? Well, clicking this is still going to cost me 1, so that's going to make my score go down to -6. But I'm going to get 1 point for matching times my match bonus of 4 is 4 more points. So my score should be -2. All right? And it is. Woohoo. Okay, let's see if we can find it ranked. But I'm going to actually run this on the iPad. So I just pick iPad and hit run, and it runs on the iPad.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.